Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Art of Cybersecurity series with me, Chirag Joshi. Now, on the show, we try to bring a lot of perspectives to cybersecurity, which are typically not talked about enough or which need some more insights into and different layers to peel. So, one of those areas which I'm really interested to talk about is around emerging technologies. We hear so much buzzwords and hype, and sometimes, uncertainty related to the advancement that we see every day, be it artificial intelligence, be it blockchains, be it other things that we are witnessing. But I think it's important to be uh, deliberate, prudent, and intentional about how we think about security, and not just about the exciting aspects of things or the novelty aspects of things. So I wanted to have a discussion on emerging technologies, but expand that further because you'll quickly see the guest I have on today. And I'm so privileged to have him on the show. Uh, he's a man of many different talents, and I would love to pick his brains on some other topics too. But emerging technologies will be our focus today. So, with that in mind, I am delighted to introduce Colonel Inderjeet Singh to our show. Colonel Singh, like I said, man of many talents. He's people use the word luminary, but if there was ever a person who a word should be assigned to, the luminary word, it's Colonel Singh. If you look up his LinkedIn, and he's very active there, so I encourage you to do that. He keeps researching, speaking, and actually sharing practical insights for all of us to learn from, to grow from, and collaborate on. And that's just fascinating in its own right. But he's currently a chief cybersecurity officer, and he's had that history throughout his career of being the chief or being in the mentor role, of being on boards, of advising them, and a distinguished service history before that. So I don't want to steal his thunder. I would like for him to be welcomed formally on the show. Colonel Singh, so great to have you on here. And the show is privileged to have your presence here.
Thanks, Chirag. It's really wonderful to be with you. And thank you for inviting me for your show. Uh, Feeling very privileged and talking on some of the cutting edge technologies, talking on the complete ecosystem. And just a brief about me, I had a long career into the space of IT security, the cyber security, the data security. So I have seen the journey from where we started talking about the internet security, then we moved on to the network security. And now we are talking of the data security. And in future, we are also going to be talking about the metaverse and all those things. So the virtual security, maybe, or a synthetic security, I'll call it. So that's a very interesting space, and lots of learning, lots of things which I have gained throughout the things from the community, from industry, and colleagues like you, of course. And that's very interesting to be with you today.
No, that's awesome, and I'm looking forward to digging right into the conversation. So, with that in mind, I think we talked about emerging technologies, the cutting edge developments happening. So, lately all the buzz has been around Chat GPT and just generally around artificial intelligence and what has evolved there. But there is a lot more to emerging technologies, and I also think emerging doesn't necessarily also have to be always new, because AI is not new. Like, machine learning has been a long time, and AI has been around for a long time. It's just now a very different capability that exists. But I don't want to ask you this, and maybe this is where we start, is in your perspective, what are the emerging technologies that you are keenly following, and how do we approach security for that, right? I mean, because I think we should support a secure adoption. We should not be the function of no, or just bringing forward all these negative connotations. We need to enable it. So I'm keen to understand, like, what are you thinking in terms of emerging technologies, and principally, how do you think we should approach their secure adoption?
Thanks, Chirag. Very interesting question. And while we talk of the technologies, we just don't talk of one technology. It's a whole lot of technologies which are happening. And last 2 3 years, what we have seen, that technology is really emerging, and the cascading effect of the technology is such that we are seeing the results more than earlier than what we really expected, right? And whether you take it as blockchain, whether you talk of it quantum computing, whether you talk of the 5G networks, and top layer you talk of the AI, machine learning, deep learning, as a whole. So the emerging technology as a whole has been a combination of all of them. They're supplementing each one of them to come up as the best technology together. So whether it's a blockchain, so you do require AI, do require quantum computing, you do require the 5G networks, 6G networks. Now we are talking the Wi-Fi 6 in space, and the AI, which is of course giving you the kind of predictive intelligence, prescriptive intelligence, cognitive intelligence to make the best of it, and also not to forget the IoT, right? IoTs and the IIoTs, the sensors which are all across. The whole stack of the technologies which are there, they work together, and the outputs are so fantastic. It's really changing the whole way we are working. And like we talk of the Web 2 and Web 3 also, which is coming up, the way we do the internet is going to change. More from a centralized technologies, a centralized internet system, we are going to go to the distributed internet system. The way we are working today, the normal office applications, they are all going to go onto the blockchain. There's a buzzword which is already there. The tokenization which is going to come up by 2030. It's going to disrupt the ecosystem by $10 trillion. So that's how these technologies are playing a very big role. And we are lucky that we are seeing the development of the technology in front of us, and while we growing along with it. So this is the most important. But definitely, the security is a major concern when we talk of these technologies, right? Unfortunately, we've always been taking the security as a last bastion to safeguard it whenever the attacks do happen. But now is the time when the technologies are really evolving. You have to build in the security by design, and it should be part of the architecture, your framework, and you should consider in early stages of design and development itself. And while you can do all this, you can do the risk management, threat modeling, you can implement the security controls. And the complete security space is such. Sometime back, we used to always put firewalls, IDS, IPS, and we used to always say, okay, this is the risk of my organization. I have this, these are the policies which I have. Now the situation has changed. The risks are not constant. Your threats are not constant. So how do you really, counter that situation? So your risks are going to be dynamic. That means your security has to be dynamic, and it should be dynamically adapting to those risks and threats and the vulnerabilities. If we are not taking that in place, it's really going to be a problem. But definitely, I see lots of impetus towards that, and people really considering security as one of the major things to be put in. The other aspect is, you need to really test, assess the systems before you implement it, and identify the vulnerabilities, the weakness which are there. Penetration testing, vulnerability scanning, security audits have become very important. And here is where we always talk about security audits as per ISO 27001 in a cyclic way. Now is the time when we have to really think the audit in real time. We should go in for those kind of security tools which does the audit of a system as you go, because the gap between one audit cycle and another audit cycle, what happens in between, is a challenge. So that's where we need to really look in for the whether your security controls are effective, because you did a security control, you put it in place, and thereafter whether it's been implemented or it was not, if you have a real-time scanning, you can really do it, right? And you really need to have very effective, properly configured controls now. It has to be regularly patched, updated. Those are the kind of things which we have to do it. And you need to really monitor and respond to the security incidents.
Yeah.
Your instant response plan has to be very agile, very quick. You should be able to respond. You should be able to recover from your security incidents, because as we go around, the way the ransomware attack are happening, every 11 seconds, we are seeing one ransomware attack. And as per one of the studies, it says that it's going to be almost 3 seconds by 2030. So if that be the case, the attacks are not going to come down. We have to be ready, and the cyber resilience as a topic has to be on the top of our thoughts while we discuss it. The tabletop exercise, the aligning of the team, training, educating the people in the organization against these kind of attacks has become very, very important today. It's not that it is just the responsibility of the information security team or the IT team anymore. It's all the departments are to be incorporated into it. They should be equally responsible to identify and overcome the attack, because even the HR plays a major role. Your PR organization plays a major role, because as whenever there's a ransomware attack, there's a whole lot of smoshel or chaos which happens in the organization, right? So everybody has to be aligned to that. So training. And first instance, I spoke of the after effects of the ransomware attack, but training before you have the attack happening, you should be ready for it. Yeah. And like we always say, the attacks which happen, they start with one click. And it could be anyone in your organization, right, who's going to be the victim of that particular one click. So if that is the case, we have to really align ourselves. We should have the security by design, not as an afterthought. And we should be thinking of security always, because hackers are going to be there and we have to guard against them. And while the emerging technologies are, really emerging, they're disrupting the whole way we are working. The security becomes a major pillar of development.
Yeah. No, so many great insights there, and so much to unpack there. And just goes to show how complex our world is becoming as it becomes more interconnected. I think that's the big one there. So I think a few themes I heard. One of the themes when it comes to the security side of the house, and how do we support enablement of secure adoption, or just being more proactive. I think there's some really good insights. One of the insights I picked up was the idea that the nature of dynamic threats requires us to think of dynamic controls, which are real time, relying on automation as opposed to the point in time controls that we had, and that perimeter based model that we had, which was built for a world that was not changing so fast, and a technology stack that didn't change so quickly, and the way the businesses did their transformation through digitization did not change so quickly. So I think it's a different world we live in, and we need to think about this new world. But I really like the point of training, because education has always been and will always be our primary defense against the new emerging threats, because a lot of them still take advantage of the human factor. To your point, many start with a click. With a click. In the future, they could be a deep fake. We're already starting to see evidences of that propping up. So social engineering will always be a role. But it's not just that, right? To your point, it's also how people interact with these technologies. So we started to see initially people got excited with ChatGPT and started throwing all the sensitive proprietary information into that without realizing, what's the backend security, what's the backend privacy implications. I think all of those things kind of came about later, but people started playing with it. And I think that's where, I think education is so important, because you cannot replace the human critical thinking with these things. So I completely take that point there. Now, I think you, in the emerging technology side, you brought up all the key ones, and I think it's really important because there is so much there. One area which I know you are also very passionate about is blockchain, and I want to talk about that a little bit in sense of just the power of the technology that is, people started associating blockchains first with cryptocurrencies, but that's just one use case. There are so many use cases where blockchain can fundamentally transform industries, financial services being one of them. There are others. Law is the other one which we can think of. But as a blockchain, somebody who works so much with blockchain, who actually is involved with the foundation, how do you view the current status of blockchain implementation and where it can go in the future? And then from a security perspective, what are the 2 or 3 key things you would advise people when they think about adoption of blockchains in their own technology systems to enable their business?
Yeah, thanks, Chirag. And importantly, the blockchain is a very passionate subject for me. I've been working on blockchain since long. And I see the great future for blockchain, dividing the cryptocurrency, keep it on that side. I spoke of a word called tokenization. And tokenization is something where you're going to have the tokens and you're going to spend it and get the services, right? Say, for example, you want to watch a movie, you buy the tokens on the blockchain to avoid any, fake movies or fake things or news for that matter. And you buy the blockchain, you spend those tokens, and you get the services, right? So tokenization, I've just shown you a very simple example. So tokenization is really picking up, and there are so many projects happening uh, in tokenization itself. And like I brought it out, it's going to disrupt the economy by $10 trillion by 2030. And blockchain, as I look at it, most of the organizations are adopting blockchain now. There was a lull period in between, but definitely now people have started, realizing the importance of blockchain going forward, and they've started getting into the private blockchain part of it. Banks are, of course, quite gaga over the blockchain applications. It's really picking up. We're seeing so much of projects like trade finance, eKYC, letter of credits, which are there. So they are getting more structured. Countries as a whole, they're coming in with the currency called the CBDC, that's a central bank digital currencies. And like in India as well, there's the trials which are already on, right? So it's going to really change the way we transact on blockchain. So certificates issuance on blockchain is really picking up. So small applications, but great use cases are actually changing the game today. So that is how it really is going to be. And when it comes to the security of the blockchain, most of the people who are making the blockchain, they are not aware of the security aspect of it. They only think that it's too robust. But definitely there are vulnerabilities which are being created when coding a blockchain applications, because not all coders are so good that they can create a blockchain application without any vulnerabilities. If you've seen the attacks which have happened on different blockchains, exploited because of the vulnerabilities in the application itself, right? And those are the ones which are being a problem area. That is how we try to advise everyone that if you're having a blockchain application, if you're building up a blockchain application, then embed the security right in the beginning, right? And also hardly people, understand about the smart contract security. There are so many vulnerabilities when it comes to the smart contracts, right? That's everybody just gives it a pass, and that is where most of the hackers exploit it, and we find the hack attacks happening on them. The network level blockchain, where we say, if you have in control of 51% of the nodes, that's of course, very difficult to do that way. But smart contract security is a bigger challenge, which I always see, and that's a coding challenge by the coders who design the blockchain. Here, I will, in fact, I will try to touch upon, when we talk about the blockchain, we are also talking about the metaverse, right? So that's again a thing which is on the anvil, which is coming up, and cybersecurity in metaverse is a bigger challenge, where we talk of not only cybersecurity, the data privacy security. We talk of the technologies such as AR, we talk of VR, and they are the bigger culprits for your data loss, right? And you can manipulate data, you can monetize data, and your data can be sold anytime, anywhere, when we have the metaverse coming in.
It's quite fascinating. I mean, so firstly on the blockchain front, like I can tell you're very passionate. I think it's really good to get your thoughts, because I think you nailed it by the virtue of like the secure design aspect of it, secure coding aspect of it is so vital for ensuring the ongoing security in that area. And as we rely more and more, and I don't think people really, I think generally the people are aware of blockchain now, but I mean, the power of it, to your point, I don't think many people realize how powerful it is unless you are part of it or implementing it or work closely with it. It has potential to replace so many of the legacy systems that we've had in the past, which had a very different trust model, this centralized trust model, and actually make it a lot more decentralized, which allows things to be faster in many cases. Settlement periods being one of them. There's so many other applications. So I think that's it's really good advice. On the metaverse front, I think you're right. The privacy concerns, and also think the concerns around identity and the digital identity is going to be such a key, because it's it's a world where impersonation could be rife. We talk about scams and we talk about, to your point, privacy, but I think the identity challenge in metaverse will be a big problem, because we currently have identity issues today, and because we relied on these historical identifiers that we be it our the tax identifiers, or be it social security numbers, or be it passport data as identifiers, as opposed to kind of a pure digital identity solution. And now we'll be in a world where we actually need to be much more aware of those things before we go full scale ahead. So any thoughts on the identity security side? Because you've talked about metaverse, so I thought I'd touch upon that aspect.
So identity is going to be a bigger challenge in due course of time, and security of the identity, especially in the case of metaverse, I think that will be very important. And what I anticipate is, with the augmented reality coming in, with the virtual reality coming in, and the identity in metaverses can be spoofed, you can be duplicated, and those identities can be used, with your, because in the metaverse, they can take your data of your dilation, your skin, your way your cheeks are moving, your head movement, your arm movement, everything which is there. And those identities are going to be a bigger challenge to control when you're moving in metaverses. We're also trying to talk of interoperability of between the metaverse, and moving of one metaverse to another metaverse is going to be a bigger challenge, right? So criminals are going to be looking in for stealing your identity of your avatars, emulating you, and try and hack on you, or do those kind of social engineering attacks, which are going to be prevalent on you while you're in metaverse. So identity attacks are going to really pick up with the technologies such as metaverse coming in place.
Yeah. Now that's going to be fascinating times ahead. I think our profession's going to be a key part of enabling these things. That's why always I think there's so much pleasure to being in cybersecurity, and it's not just security. I think we're enabling our human progress through trust in all these things, and I think that's the exciting part of this industry that allow. So changing gears a little bit, I know we talked about the threats and we talked about emerging technologies. I obviously visit India a fair bit, and I have to say as much as I visit and I'm close to it, the speed and the scale of change when it comes to digital technologies, when it comes to the adoption of digital tools and services, it's just remarkable. And remarkable word doesn't do it justice. It's just astounding, is what I feel. And I think as when things move so quickly, regulations and legislations typically follow, and it takes a bit of a time to catch up to that. And I think that's normal everywhere. But I'm keen to get your insights in terms of the Data Protection Act that India has been talking about, but also any other regulatory developments that you are seeing in India, which are of interest to you, which you're following keenly. And then also, how can other countries and other geographies benefit from the lessons that India will go through in that journey? Because obviously India, the largest population, with so much leveraging digital tools in such a quick way. I mean, I'm just fascinated how India went away from a essentially a society reliant on cash to now. Recently, I was there, and cashless economy is so close to being realized in many areas. So I'm just keen to get your thoughts on the regulatory landscape, the data protection bill, and the lessons that other countries and geographies can learn from it.
Yep. So as India, we are really growing leaps and bounds when it comes to digital space is concerned, the Digital India movement is concerned, and very happy to share today our cyberspace is so grown so big with 850 million people on the internet today. And that's the largest digitally connected democracy,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
So it's really heartening, and maintaining those kind of networks, round the clock, seamlessly is really phenomenal. And the kind of complex, or I'll say the kind of uh, impetus which government has put in for digital economy is phenomenal. Like I spoke of the CBDC, which is there. I spoke of, Aadhaar card, that's social security cards which are there, identifying them. Your UPI payments is phenomenal, and we are increasing the ambit of our UPI payments to other countries as well. It's a very successful model, what we have seen, right? And but at the same time, there are kind of security challenges which we are already seeing with so many intermediaries for social media, your digital media, e-commerce, which are coming up. We see lots of challenges at times. We have a kind of areas to look into. We are eyeing for 1 trillion digital economy by 2025, 2026. And we are talking of Atmanirbhar Bharat, that's self-reliant India. We are going for development of SIM, the chip manufacturers which are there. We are going in for so many of industries. Make in India uh, impetus is really pushing the things very hard. We are also for the global innovation and entrepreneurship system. We promote so much of startups, to get and bring in the technology. So we are trying to shape the future of technologies in India, and we're getting in trusted parties, players, global value chains, digital products to get into India. Having said so, we have the policies in place. We are also very much aligned to lots of technologies. We are aligning to the policies in place. So, so I'll just tell you some of the policies which are there with us. We are working on them. One is the National Cybersecurity Policy 2013, which we came up, and that was the baseline. Before that, we came up with IT Act 2000. And basis that, we have already in the pipe, we have a pipeline as the Personal Data Protection Bill. That's 2022, the draft version. We're already seeing, I think, see the light of the day in this particular year itself. So that is one guiding where we are trying to protect the data of the people and also control the way the data is being used by the intermediaries, right? Data localization and other aspects which we are talking of for the data privacy of Indians, very important point of view. There's another bill which is coming up, and there's a discussion on that's called the Digital India Act 2023. So it's going to be an overarching act which will encompass your IT Act, your PDP, some part of the cybersecurity, and that's the act which is going to change the way we look at the whole concept of the digital revolution, and with the global advancements which are already happening. So all those things, because we are aware that the technology is really gone too fast to keep in pace with those kind of technologies. This Digital India Act would be a major game changer for all of us, where we are going to be talking of the online safety and trust, accountability and quality of service, your new technologies, adaptation and adaptation, and the laws around that. So those are the kind of things which we are talking of. And then we're also coming up with the National Cybersecurity Strategy. That is also on the anvil. Maybe this year we will see that. So that will be a major driving force for all the cyber crimes which are happening, right? And also it will look primarily not only the cybercrime, it looks into the way the security posture of the country would be. How will we protect the national critical infrastructure? How are we going to have the different organizations working in very cohesive way to overcome any cyber threats? How are we going to have different certs being formed in the country? How they're going to be functioning? What are the roles and responsibilities? Right. So that policy is also going to be a major game changer, which we already it's on the anvil. Lots of discussions around that. We are seeing it. Then We had the games which were quite happening towards COVID time. So we are coming up with a gaming policy right now, so that to avoid people being harassed from the games or the game applications which are there. So we have come up with a kind of a concept of a gaming by chance or a game of skills, where a game of skills is where you use your skills to gain whatever it is, and game by chance is the gambling. So we are trying to get over those kind of challenges also. Net net, we are aligned to the way the world is moving, the world order is moving. We are getting in those cybersecurity policies, aligning them together, working so that we are in line with what's happening all over. And the citizens of the country are protected, whether it's your personal data, your data privacy, your network security, or a country security is concerned. Right. So that is how we are aligning ourselves. Our thoughts are aligned for taking on those kind of challenges while we are growing every day.
Wow, no, that's really fascinating, and it's so many different. To your point, there's a strategy aspect, there is the data protection and privacy aspect to it, but some of the unique challenges to your point that you brought up around, the as people get more and more comfortable with technology, they can also become be targeted via that mechanism, right? So I think being more deliberate about that, about protecting people in this space, is such a key consideration, and just that number is it's an amazing number, right? Of how many Indians are now, connected to the internet actively. That's a massive, staggering number. If you just think about the population of entire countries in that could be accounted for. So I think it's a very interesting challenge, and I think there are some lessons that can be learned. And to your point, also India can apply those lessons as it quickly scales up to meet the new environment that we are in, really from a technology perspective. I think it's really good insight. Hey, one question I think which I would be remiss if I didn't ask that. We talked a lot about emerging technologies, and we talked a little bit about artificial intelligence. But are there any things that you want to call out? Because I know that's another space you are quite active in, and you publish a fair bit on LinkedIn along that. Is Chat GPT is just one. It's just one application. But anything else that you think beyond the privacy, sensitivity, adversarial impact that we should think about from an artificial intelligence security perspective?
So AI as a whole, it's going to be a very important. And we are seeing the flavor with the first flavor, I'll say, the Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Of course. And that's only a horizontal line, and the vertical applications are really phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody's building on the Chat GPT, whether it's a text GPT, video GPT, slide GPT, everything coming up in a vertical fashion. The government's also trying to work up, with different GPTs and with the large learning models to put it together. When it comes to AI, we have to be taken with a pinch of salt, right? And very recently, the Google, one of the father of GPT, the father of AI in Google, who was there, Hilton, that guy. So he came up that he designed just because he thinks that there is going to be a bigger challenge with the AI taking the shape it is. And when I say so, we always thought, and most of the studies where it said that, we have a supervised AI, then we have a semi-supervised AI, and an unsupervised AI. And we had a kind of a timeline. Everybody thought it was around 2024, 2040 or 2045 to say. But I brought it out that the technologies are changing so fast. With the changing technology, we're already seeing the semi-supervised AI showing the results. And if the data in the AI is not good, it is poisoned, it will give you the wrong result.
Yes.
So the data poisoning in AI is going to play havoc because we are only thinking of the good part of AI. Right? Say the case in point, the AI in predictive policing, I'll put it across with one of the use cases. And you have the AI engines which you're trying to predict that he's the criminal as a whole. Your AI models predicted, your data predicted. And suddenly you find that the person you map is not the person was, as per your prediction.
Hmm.
So what you did, you nabbed the wrong person. And why it happened? Somewhere the data poisoning. So the algorithm writings are going to be very, very important.
Right.
Selection of the algorithms, the AI, the deep learning algorithm, the machine learning algorithm are the most important, because uh, if you're not choosing the right algorithms to work, and we are not giving the right, because AI is primarily in the initial stage is data in, data out with processing, with
Yeah.
intelligence, right? When it goes to the semi-supervised AI, where we're looking at some kind of predictive intelligence to come in, right? So that's the time we have to really vouch for the data, what data we're giving. One small wrong data is going to create havoc overall in the
Yeah.
results.
Yeah.
And when we are talking of the later part of it, when we're talking the cognitive intelligence or the prescriptive intelligence, wrong input, wrong output, right? And if that output is wrong, just see, we already saw, we use a home robo. You're training that robo for cutting the vegetable, and that robo, if trained, can use a knife to the master itself.
Hmm.
Or you use the robo, you give the robo to somebody else, you sold it. You taught the robo for something, it's been trained for a particular task. You gave it to another person for chopping, he could do a damage to the other person,
Hmm.
right? So while AI is pretty good, we are in a very good times. But at the same time, we have to be kind of talking of the AI security. We have to be very much worse of what's happening, and future is all going to be AI versus AI. We're already seeing
Yeah.
AI in cyber war against AI from the defense perspective, offensive and defensive. So AI versus AI is the future, but at the same time, we have to look into lots of aspects while we're building it. We should not go wrong anywhere in the building of the AI models.
Oh wow! I think you hit upon so many amazing points. They're really really good insights, and you're absolutely right. It's I think we need to be, and that's why we need to deliberate, intentional about how we are going to build these things. These are not some games, then and some gimmicks. These have potential to actually fundamentally reshape how we live, how we work, how we do business, how we communicate with people. So I think it's so much power in that, which if done right, to your point, can make a big difference. Back a few years back, Microsoft had a bad experience where they had this chatbot that they had to take offline pretty quickly because it started saying really inappropriate things because people fed that, right? I mean, those were the early days where it was taking in that data. But you're right. I mean, it's essentially an algorithm. It's essentially an algorithm that can work in many different ways. So doing it well properly will set us up well, and also being intentional about why do we want to do and what do we want to do with it. I think that why and what are very important to ask as opposed to just running with it. So I know there's some people who are on both sides of the equation. There's some who are kind of publicly caused for a bit of a pause in development so we can think about this, and some who are saying, you know what, you can't stop progress, it's going to move, so you got to catch up. So I think it's an interesting time we live in. So look, I've been very generous with your time, so I'm just going to end on this one question because I think it's a question that someone like you, people will benefit greatly from. You in your career have done so many different things, you and done them simultaneously, which is very admirable. And I think I'm very keen to hear from you on how you keep going in terms of your growth mindset, in terms of what makes you you, and allow and enables you to do all these great things. But also, what advice would you pass on uh, to others who want to follow your footsteps, or there are mid-level managers who have done reasonably well but want to take the next step in their careers and reach the executive level, or do more thought leadership like you do. What are your advice, and how do you keep yourself going?
Yep, thanks. It's something very interesting to share on that, And continuous learning is one key which I always tell everyone. Always is be a student. If you're learning, because like I told you, it's a very evolving field today. We're seeing so many disruptive technologies coming up. So it's very important to be stay up to date with the latest trend technologies, what the threats as well, right? So you need to do that. You need to read somewhere the publications which are there. You need to participate in the online community. Possible, do that. Go all out to learn. Don't restrict yourself, because the learning is one curve. The day you think that I'm not going to learn, I'm going to take a break, you'll find that technology has changed by the time you come back after the break. So there's no break time which is there anymore, right? Second is, the mentors are very important for anyone to grow today. The guidance of your mentors seeking what you need to do, who are more experienced cybersecurity professionals or any other fields, maybe a blockchain. Don't hesitate to get to them, take their valuable insights, right? So and the constant learning is very important. Like I told you, while you're learning on your own, you need to go through some structured certifications, constant training part of it, so that you have the expertise which others are gaining, and you remain committed to your field, because certifications make you, grow faster in your career. Right? You should be able to take on new challenges. Don't hold back. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and take a new challenge. You have to be away from that, and this can help you develop new skills, broaden your experience, and that is where you will be all out when you're on the ground. Peers play a major role, and networking with peers, networking with the other cybersecurity professionals, because it's today a global village. We're no more restricted to any country. It's a global village. We should share our ideas. We should share the best practices, what we have learned. Take the the problems what they had, imbibe them, and make it in a better manner and use it whenever the need arises, right? And you should be very curious when it comes to the whole mindset is concerned. Always be looking in for opportunities to grow and embrace the new technologies, embrace what's really happening. Your approach to the problem solving you should approach. And one thing, just remember, try and apply your design thinking capabilities. We all have it, the design thinking mindset. We never use it, right? Do that design thinking capability of yours whenever there's a new thing which is on the anvil, and be proactive, never be reactive, right? Because like the AI is proactive and predictive, we also need to be very proactive and predictive, and identify the new opportunities for improvement of your organization's cybersecurity posture, your career. Think ahead, think out of the box, think ahead of the graph. Take initiatives to propose and implement solutions. Don't mind that whether it's a good or bad. 5 times you'll go wrong, 6 times you'll be right. That's the way it is, and that's the right path you will be always on. So those are the kind of things you have to be positive, take the right foot forward, move ahead, and don't look back. So don't look back on the failures, look only on the successes what you have. And one thing very important, don't try to be a history man. Look ahead and go ahead. That's what I personally feel.
Wow, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. There's so many great actionable points there, right from continuous learning to having the courage, being curious, and to your point, network. And that's such a powerful thing. Networking is not about making sales or getting a job. Networking is so much more than that. I think it is about being a sponge and absorbing somebody's expertise and learning from them while sharing your own and giving it back. I think there's so much to networking and being part of the community. So I completely echo everything you said there. And it's so powerful in terms of embracing new technologies. And I really like your perspective on certifications, because certifications often, there are people on both sides of the fence, but you nailed it. It's about having the discipline, having the commitment, and having a structure to help you move faster. It's not, when people think about, oh, I don't need a certification to prove I know something. Well, that's not the point. The point is you are going through an exercise in a structured manner to get to the next step, which will, to your point, if you're structured, you'll get there faster as opposed to taking, the roundabout ways there. So It's really good perspective. So on that note, Colonel Singh, I just want to extend my massive thanks to you for your generous time and so many amazing insights. I could have kept going for another hour, by the way. So I think there's so much to discuss. I mean, and while you were speaking, I was thinking of, so many areas where we could have another deeper conversation, but we'll probably park that for a future episode, because I think it'd be, by the time we catch up again on this, there might be a few more innovations that might have happened, and we'll have an opportunity to discuss them. So thank you again. Really appreciate it, and lots of great insights. Appreciate you being on the show with us.
It's a real pleasure. It's a really wonderful discussing on these technologies and the way forward. And we're in a very interesting space. And definitely, I look forward to be on your show again, discussing new technologies, new ways to protect, new challenges together. So that will be really wonderful. Thank you very much for having me for your show.
Absolutely. Thank you.